looking for leads, I use LinkedIn a lot. And we also have a lot of inbound inquiries on things such as Brexit, new documentation for export, that sort of thing. And a person asking for help on that front will also be given details of some of our other services, and I've been really successful with that.
That's a great shout. So it almost doesn't matter what they're phoning you about. Well, of course it does in that moment, but the fact is you've got a fantastic opportunity to create a good impression, a really good customer experience, and that's to be, I would say that's to be treasured. And you can then curate that relationship, and it may not go anywhere at first, but they've had a really positive experience. I'll give you an example that happened to me just this Monday morning. Yeah, because life happens. Our washing machine dryer thing just stopped working. So I phoned in to a call center, which, if I'm honest, is not something I look forward to in particular, because not many of them are good. It's Hoover Candy. It's a positive experience. So I'll tell you about that. And I spoke with someone. She was very gentle, and she made it very clear what the two options were, which is basically you're outside of warranty. You can either do option A or option B. And I said, well, I'm going to speak to Mrs. Roselle about that. Can you call me back tomorrow morning? And she duly called back the following morning. How are you doing? No, this is quite a refreshing experience. If anyone's had the pleasure of phoning up a mobile phone company or an energy utility company, then that can be a difficult experience. But she phoned up. I was able to give her the go ahead. 5 minutes later, I got an email confirming absolutely everything. And I thought, what a positive experience that was. It could have been a really difficult conversation, because maintenance calls or service calls, not generally positive experiences. But I now hold that brand in much higher regard than I did previously. And so everything, even if the lead that comes into your organization is not relevant, it's still an opportunity to impress, because they may change companies in the future. If you've given them a positive experience, then, and especially if it's just you, then they'll feel positively about your brand. It's an opportunity to...
Keith?
Yeah.
The person you speak to could also go to a different company where the need is much clearer for them in their new company than it was in their previous role.
Yeah, that is a really good shout. Does anyone else have any examples kind of like that? I didn't want to dominate that conversation. I'll tell you something else that happened, and it was about 15 years ago. But a good friend of mine now, but a client at the time, was working for RBS, and I actually lost a deal, quite a big deal, and I went in for the debrief. I don't know if anyone's had that experience where most people don't attend them. I do, because there's another opportunity to meet and learn something maybe. So I went to this thing, and they walked. There was three of them. There was the technical guy, a procurement guy, and I think the overall IT director or whatever it was. And they walked me out afterwards, and I thought I'm never going to hear from them again. But anyway, I think within a week, certainly within a week, I got a call from John, the technical guy, to say, I'm actually moving companies, and I was quite impressed by what you did. It was very clear your company wasn't necessarily with you, so I'd like to have a chat with you about what you may be able to do with us at the next company. And that led to a $2 million order for networking, Cisco Systems networking equipment, which is a drop in the bucket now, I recognize. But it's those opportunities to build that relationship, and those relationships. Generally, we're all employees on this call. Those relationships are not with Steps to Work. They're not with St. Basil's. They're between Pauline and the should we say the corporate. So you could give someone someone else's phone number, that doesn't mean they've got the relationship with that person. The relationship is between you and the other person, between you and your art collecting client, whatever it happens to be. That's absolutely you. And they may move to another company, and you may move to another company, but it's your relationship. So I just absolutely believe in that. If you're doing a good thing, it may not pay off now, but you've got the relationship, and it's an opportunity for it to pay off later on. So thank you for that. Okay, so what's next? Any idea does anyone even track close rates or anything? Not everyone does. In fact, few people do. Anyone?
I think if you're a big corporate, it makes sense, Keith. But until you get to a certain volume, I think you're grateful to close one or two. And so, you know, if we're talking about, well, we closed 3 out of 50, we're concentrating on the 3. We're not worried about the other 47. But if we've got a bigger corporate structure, and we've got, you know, we're really looking at sales metrics.
Yeah.
And I think then we do look at, okay, so out of the 100 leads we got this week, how many did we close? Let's improve it next week. That's my take anyway.
I agree with you to a certain extent, Phil. So in my old job, yes, we would look at our close rate, because it was, you know, I worked for an international company. It was very specific. We were targeted on sort of leads and how we closed the business and where we were as percentages on closing. Where I am at St Basil's, if we get a no, I know this sounds cliche, but we're okay with that, because it means that the company that we've approached doesn't necessarily share the same values or similar values to us, and they could be working with another charity or another organisation that they feel have a stronger connection to. So sometimes that's not always a bad thing if we haven't closed on somebody we've been working on. We try to get a reason. So that helps us, and we also try to keep the door open, because we realise that some of the bigger corporates we deal with, like some of the banks and the financial institutes, will change charities to make sure it's fair, or they'll have a trust or a foundation, so they'll give to multiple charities. So we don't see a no as a bad thing when we look at our rates.
That's a really good shout. It's just feedback. That's all. Sorry, Lisa, did you want to say something on that?
I was just thinking that from everyone that I do a full, what I call presentation call or Zoom with, my close rate is, I think it's about 52%, something like that. But that's not completely accurate, because I get some people coming back to me a year later, and those figures are just a bit of a snapshot. But I think that's probably down to the fact that I will determine quite early on whether it's worth actually doing that full call or not.
That's a good shout. So that's part of qualification, if you like, we should come on to next week. Point of tracking. So there are what I would call lead indicators and lag indicators. Lead indicators is basically effort out. It's how many phone calls a day you're making, how many emails you're sending, etc. So it's effort out. Lag indicators is what's happened after the fact. How many leads are you getting coming in, which are probably as a result of your marketing campaign or something out, which is the lead indicators. The lag indicators are after the fact, your close rate, your revenue that month. It's as a result of doing something to generate that revenue or that lead, etc. So you can, the point of doing all this stuff, and it can be effective. You know, just a basic example is when I first started out on my own business with limited resources, frankly. I looked at my my Mastercard bill at the end of 3 months, and I was spending more money with BP and Shell than I was on my marketing budget. And that's just a very basic example of actually that BP and Shell are already rich, and actually so are Facebook. But, you know, I felt that investing in marketing is an investment in your business more so than diesel or fuel or whatever it is, and it just didn't make sense. So I've been a big fan of Zoom ever since I discovered that a couple of years ago. And also I'm in Yorkshire as well, and we're really tight. So that's a kind of a sobering approach, but actually, so just to show that it can be relevant no matter what the size of your business, big multinational, small, just me, just getting started out, it makes sense to see what your cost, what I call a cost to acquire is, how much are those leads costing you, how profitable companies are. And I'm going to come onto this in future things, but if there's one thing worse than no business, it's bad business. And I know we've heard that a lot over the last 4 or 5 years, but it doesn't stop it from being true. So the one thing you really can drag you down, both emotionally and everything else, is bad business, because one of your salespeople is desperate at the end of the quarter and they close a client at a huge discount, and it happens all the time. And they're a really difficult client, and it just costs you a fortune in resources to staff it all. But so that's another sort of measure, if you like. Okay, right. And where are your inbound leads coming from? So that would be an example of, well, I think a lag indicator. So where's it coming from? So, I've not this cohort, but the one before, when I was talking about you need to be on LinkedIn, it was Acorns actually. So Paul, and you're probably aware of Acorns. They were saying, well, actually, we've got Twitter. We've got a huge following on Twitter. We've absolutely got it nailed. Everyone follows us. It's really working well. So my point is always, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you're doing something that's already working really, really well, you're happy, then don't change it. Just keep on doing more of the same. Okay, so what is a lead? So, well, I've just talked about that. The no business, it's bad business. So ideally, a lead is a red hot opportunity where someone wants to buy something from you now. And Google knows this, which is why they charge, I don't know if anyone's looked into this, but when you Google car insurance or whatever, it costs about £58 to click. It costs, a company direct line, not direct line, something like that. It would cost £58 to click on that link, go through their call center, because their close rate is really high. Because most customers have done their research already. I'm going to click on that one, and they're going to go. They're probably going to buy. High chance of buying on that call. So the keyword searches are very, very expensive. Not necessarily the same is true for all of us, but the principles are the same, whatever. So Google knows that if you're going to buy now, that's a very valuable commodity. But it's more than likely that someone's going to have that inquiry that Lisa was talking about. They phoned in to talk about Brexit, but you've got the opportunity to have a conversation with that client that may not do something now, but if you're kind to them and helpful, then that's going to stand you in really good stead. And I'll come across some more data later on that later on in the series, where a new customer is between 5 and 25 times more expensive to acquire than a bit of business from an existing customer. And so often we find that existing customers are almost poor relations. We leave them behind because we want that new blood coming in, that new business coming in all the time at the expense of existing customers. And that's what happened with the fans back to the European League, Super League again. The existing customers, the existing fans felt hard done by, and they signaled their displeasure, and that's what happened. Okay, so
Keith,
yeah.
I think you can also look at the way telephone companies behave. Once you're on board with a telephone company, basically you just get whatever they fancy giving to you. I mean, or it even gets taken away. But if you're a new customer, they'll jump through hoops of fire to bring you on board.
It will. And they're almost running to stand still, aren't they? I did some work for an energy utility company a few years ago, ran their call centers, and we had to make 168,000 sales every year. It's all done by phone. There's no traveling involved. Just to break even, if you like. And anything above that was constituted business growth. But we had to do 168,000 because there were so many falling out the top of the bucket that we had to have another pipe that was filling it with 168,000 people. It's ridiculous. So nurturing, curating your existing clients is so much easier, particularly if it's what I would call a personalized service in particular. So if you're consulting with your art clients, Liga, then that connection that they have with you, with your expertise, your sort of professional kindness, if you like, and those interpersonal skills, that's going to be your biggest commodity, your biggest payday is going to be the quality of that interaction that you have with your clients. That actually goes for all of us. Excuse me. So I just want to point out that Catherine is a former coaching client of mine, lives in Dublin, and she's got a really interesting career. She's been a business coach. She's run her own recruitment company, turned over almost £1 million, and then sort of transitioned to become more of a business coach. And there you go. So she'd been really successful, but she'd been positioned as almost a business startup kind of coach. She'd been doing it for about 5 years, really successful, highly thought of, and was with worked closely with whatever Dublin's equivalent of the local enterprise partnership is. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the same sort of body or agency, if you like. She was famous in that local development corporation, that's what they call famous in that space. Now, she was, because budgets are pretty tight on startups, she was billing 40 hours a week, but she was working 60 hours a week because it just required more support than a really experienced or a really mature sort of business. So she was working. I've got her permission to tell this story, by the way, just in case. So she was boxed in, and in her own words, she had become a busy fool. So it was really, really busy. But of course, if you go back to what I was talking about just now, her costs, the value of her customers was quite low. She needed lots of them, and that made her very busy. So when we first talked, we talked about she's in the wrong space. She's got that much experience now. She's almost sort of outgrown that space, if you like. It's probably better for a. She's got too much experience, actually. She's overvalued for that role. So we implemented a strategy to take her from one customer segment, business growth, startups, if you like, into more mature businesses. And where the rubber meets the road is that takes you from 100 euros an hour to 300 euros an hour return on your time. So she's entering a different market space. So now she's working, and it's not completely transformed just yet, but she's probably billing 30 hours a week, but only working 30 hours a week. That's the point. So she's her time is at least twice as valuable. She's getting double the rate of return on her time. That's the important point. That's transitioning from one sector or one segment, I beg your pardon, to another is much more valuable. Okay, some cold, hard facts around lead generation. I think there are two types of lead generation. There's active lead generation from you, your sales team, that stuff that you're actually actively doing. And then there's passive. And passive is social media. What I would almost call that a softer approach to so social media. It could be awareness, it could be building your brand or your profile out there. It's not directly looking for leads. Now, what Lisa was talking about when she took a call from someone talking about Brexit or anyone else that's done something similar, that was a passive bit of a softer bit of lead generation on Lisa's part, where she was impressing in the first instance, ticking that box, that's what they wanted. But actually she was generating a really good quality experience, that brand, that profile. I like interacting with the chamber, the Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce. They're nice people, let's say. So I don't really like using that word, but nice, but it fits for this use. That was a positive experience. If ever I need any support for my business again, I'm going to go back there because they're good people and I can relate to them. That is a really positive experience, but that's a passive. A year later, you find they're coming back through the door again, or whatever it happens to be. So that's the real difference. Now, active is going to be anything from, I don't know if anyone does cold calling. Does anyone do cold calling? Yeah. Okay. Who really loves cold calling? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Even seasoned, should we say, professionals, salespeople.
Can I make a comment on that, Keith?
Yeah, please.
The first call, it's almost like when you're learning to swim and you can't quite swim, and the guy at the pool thinks you can swim, so he's trying to, encourage you to jump in, and he knows you're probably going to struggle to begin with, and then you get the hang of it, and he's like, well, that was so easy. Well, I think cold calling is more or less the same. You don't want to do it, but it's got to be done. You give yourself 1,000 excuses. You make an extra cup of tea, go and get an extra biscuit, whatever, do the washing up, whatever you need to do. And they, oh yeah, it's still waiting there for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when you get started and you make 2 or 3 calls, after the first call that goes well, you can't wait to get on the phone to do the next one.
Yeah.
Right. It's just taking that first step every single day. And I think the top biz dev guys, they just nail it every time. They know this. They've got it here in their minds that that's what they got to do. But if you're not a regular cold caller, it's so difficult to get in that mindset and get on with it.
You're right. It's mindset is absolutely the right word, and it's. But the point I was trying to make was, not many people are in that space where they really enjoy cold calling. It can be a real struggle, but it's a mindset thing. Absolutely. Okay, so right, I'm gonna into sensitive territory here. Okay, so no secret, I met Mrs. Roselle online on an amazing quirk of fate. Mrs. Roselle's quite posh. She was on the Times. I didn't read the Times at the time. I was on Match.com, which was fine for me. And then she got a special deal to go on Match.com for 3 weeks or something like that. And during that 3 weeks, well, in fact, I'm going back a while. So it wasn't even swipe left. It was, I think you just had to wink or something like that. Anyway, so here we are.
Did she ask for her money back?
Many times over the last 10 years, Bill. No, I was, without going into too much detail, I was renting a room from in my mate's house, and he was also on Match, and he had a different approach, which I'm not going to go into. I genuinely wanted another relationship kind of going forward, but on my profile, I put on there, no neurotics, because I just know we're going to go like that. Now that was, I'm very sorry, I really hope that hasn't upset anyone, but that for me would have been bad business, as bad for them as it would be for me. So, and my mate Steve could not believe it. He said, because salespeople, right? You're cutting out 80% of your potential audience. And I told him, well, thank God for that, because it's going to be as painful for them as it is for me.
Keith, I'm surprised that they let you keep that on there, because it's bad for them, isn't it? So it's like somebody posting something on Facebook and then it gets deleted because the content's putting no neurotics isn't good PR for them, is it?
No, that's really, and thank you for engaging with that really positively. But it's just an example of and maybe a little bit too personal, I don't know, but I like telling the story, and I've got Mrs. R's permission to tell it. And because it's the stuff of life, right? So anyway, that aside, I didn't want to engage with that segment of the market. There are plenty that will. I just didn't want. I just knew I didn't want that. So anyway, I'm not suggesting you do that on your own websites. That probably wouldn't be appropriate. But you know, Monty Python rule number one. You know, certain segments of the market you probably don't want to. You probably don't want to. You engage with, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, so this is something else. Now, I've not looked at everyone's individual LinkedIn profiles, but the point of this is you need to niche down. You need to be very specific. So I did come across someone on my, I do this LinkedIn thing once a month, which Pauline's already jumped on. Well done, Pauline. And the next one's on 10th of May, by the way, which is for free. It's open to everyone. You're very welcome to come along. But she had on her LinkedIn headline, manager at self-employed. And that, I just thought, what does that mean? She may have known what that meant, but that meant nothing to me. And I couldn't relate to that profile. So I'm almost certainly not going to engage with that profile, whatever it meant. But if this is your 24/7 shop window, be it your website, be it your LinkedIn profile, you've got to be very, very specific. So I was quite specific what I didn't want. But in reality, the best way is to be very specific about what you do and who you do it with. So you're providing art experiences and advice for a particular segment of the market. Then, you know, I want to know within 3 seconds of landing on your profile, is that something I'm interested in? If not, move on. There are 7 billion people in the world. There's 700 million people on LinkedIn. You know, there is a way of LinkedIn being a fantastic lead generator, the right kind of leads for your business. That's what I'm trying to say. And if you're scattergunning, you know, if you want to sell to everyone, if you want your message to go out to everyone, you know, it's just not going to land. We just don't have the attention span to take in absolutely everything that's bombarding or competing for our attention these days. It's got to be, you've almost got to be a sniper rather than a machine gunner. As I'm not particularly comfortable with that analogy, but it kind of serves the purpose anyway. So anyway, cold calling. We'll come to this and perhaps give you a bit of a script which might help you, or an approach that might help you going forward, because I spent 30 years doing this, and I've lived through some really painful phone calls, really awful phone calls. That I don't drink, so I'm not going to go into any details but anymore. Anyway, right. So cold calling, still very important, very useful. So some soft warm facts now. So can anyone complete this phrase then? So it's not what you know, it's not what you know, it's
Who you know.
Who you know. Who you know. Now that will never completely go away. And if you've been watching the news in the UK over the last 48 hours, you know, government ministers, and I'm not going to get off on politics because they're all guilty of it, but you know, it's who you know, who you went to school with, all of that. That is never ever going to completely go away. But if you're in business and in the world of social media, it's not who you know. It's actually the reverse. It's who knows you. And that is the point of having a great LinkedIn profile. It's because you can't possibly engage with those 700 million people. But if you post the right kind of stuff, that you're not constantly in sales mode, that you're appealing to the right kind of audience, the kind of audience that you want to attract into your universe, your business universe, if you like, your business ecosystem specifically, then it's going to be about who knows you. That's going to be much more to your advantage than the number of people in your black book or in your smartphone or whatever it happens to be. Who knows you? Okay, right. So there you go. Excuse me. And then, again, if you've done everything right, your website, the keyword search, search engine optimization, if people are familiar with that, and steps to work, I think have done quite a lot of work in this area the last 12 months, Julie, then you're going to build up your profile, getting to page 1 on Google, not in the paid ads, something else. That's a good place to be. And then, so by the time, just like Lisa did with her call earlier on, 70% of buyers, 70% of those leads will have already done their research before they get to engage with you on a one-to-one basis. So it's kind of a buying signal that someone's coming through to you anyway, because they could have phoned anyone in your sector, but they've chose to phone you. So if nothing else, so here's a tip for you. If nothing else, it's worth asking and making sure that that whoever does phone through, ask them what made them call you today. How did they find out about you? Was it from Google? Was it from LinkedIn? Again, as a sense check, that's a lag indicator. What's working? What are people responding to? And the answer, and it changes all the time because there's so many inputs that we've got, socioeconomic inputs from all the way around the world, changes how people behave on a daily basis. It's very complex. Can't get into that all today, but I can just assure you that it does change. And so the answer to that question this afternoon at 4:30 or 4:15 is potentially going to be different to Friday morning at 9 o'clock. Stuff goes on in all of our lives, so it's really worth tracking all of that. So whoever you've got answering the phone, if it's you, make a note of it, but whoever you've got answering the phones, really try and understand who's calling, what's working. As an example of that, I'm going to get this 90% right, but when Google first started out on pay-per-click, I am going back some years again, they spent something like $2 million finding out whether to have the arrow pointing for the best result, pointing to the left or to the right. They spent on A/B testing, on testing which one people were responding to the best. And so when you do your advertising, if you do paid advertising, you may have to adjust images to see what's working best. It's more of an art than a science, for sure. So again, as you're picking up, although this is all about sales and marketing these days are more closely linked, or they should be more closely linked today than at any time. And although, as Bill would probably agree, sales marketing typically been like that for a long time, decades. Actually, the faster we can become like that, talking to each other, giving feedback, the more productive we can all become. And that's why you get sales and marketing directors, because it does converge at a sensible level. Okay, right. And don't be in constant selling mode. The general, we're there to develop relationships, actually, particularly if you sell a service rather than a product. We are there to build relationships over time. I worked with a chocolate maker in York. York's famous for two things, trains and chocolates. And I love both, which is okay, although I know which one I prefer. But anyway, but she, so Sophie, who runs a chocolate business here, was telling me a story at the end of last year during lockdown, very difficult times for everyone, of course, but they just did a really good set of business with quite a wealthy family that live locally that I hadn't seen for ages. And she was saying that actually she first talked 10 years ago to that family about what she was doing. She created that experience. And then whatever happens in the meantime, I don't know, but 10 years later, they're walking through the door and she's created a customer. Now, not many people can afford to hang on 10 years for people to walk through the door. Obviously, she's done lots in the meantime. But the point is, creating that positive experience, it's worth investing in our people to ensure that they are happy, that they demonstrate that at work with customers, etc. It's incredibly important. And discover what the customer thinks they need. Now, I'm going to ask that a little bit later, because customers don't always know what they want, and sometimes they're we have to educate them a little bit to take them on the journey, to make them to get them to make informed decisions. And I know nothing about the art market, as Liga will attest, but I do know that probably within an hour, I could probably ask certain questions of high gain questions of a customer, and I could discover what it is that really drives them and what they want to buy. And assuming we're going to get a percentage of what they buy, then we're going to get a really good payday off the back of that. So anyway, okay, so yeah, you've got to get into their consciousness, give them value, and with your point of view on whether it's the art market or the what's going on in youth homelessness, what the drivers of that are, but your point of view is incredibly valuable. People will pay good money for good advice and information. Okay, so bear with me on this one. This is a guy actually in the technology. This is a guy called Scott McNeely. Scott founded a company called Sun Microsystems, and they were really big in the in financial services. So all the big investment banks ran their stuff with these great big stun Starfire machines. They look like something out of Star Wars, which is probably how they came to that name. But anyway, I went for an interview with Scott in the late 90s, and I'd read a book, I think, from McKinsey, because I knew he was a well-educated guy, and I'm not particularly. But my interview with him, I said to Scott, what's your strategy here with Sun Microsystems? Where's it all going? And he said, our strategy is to be tactical. And that didn't make any sense to me at the time. I think it does now. The way I would paraphrase that now is that he basically allowed his customers, which were paying him millions and millions of dollars for his equipment, to dictate. He literally put his business in the customer's hands and let them dictate the direction that his company should take. And actually, I think we can all take, it's a bit of a leap of faith sometimes, but if you are really dedicated to outstanding customer service, you'll listen at the very least to what your customer base is telling you. And in that sense, it does make us a bit tactical in what you're doing. And so the message really is to listen very carefully to what your customer wants and what they're likely to want tomorrow. And just by way of measure to see if that works out, he sold his company to Oracle for $7.5 billion. So that worked out pretty well. And I have no idea what he's doing, what he's doing now. But I always remember that he's an awesome guy to meet, as you would sort of expect. But his answer surprised me. But 20 years hence, I can see, actually, do you know what? There is some validity in that. At the very minimum, listening very closely to your customer base and just making them feel loved is an incredibly rewarding experience, both financially and intellectually, when it comes to customer service. So listen to what they want, listen to their needs. Okay, now this could go either way. Let's hope it goes the right way. So I'm going to play a bit of a video. Let me just dismiss that. This is relevant for two different ways, really. I think it's about qualifying the deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to optimize the sound. Optimize for a video clip. I'm going to play it, only lasts about 55 seconds. And I hope you're going to get this all the way through. Here goes.
Lemonade wasn't so bloody delicious. We're going to be late. Just hold it in. Okay? I can't hold. I really need to go. I'm not joking. Come on, we need to pull over.
Shay. Just go in a bottle. Just go in a bottle, Fitzy. Come on, it would actually be hilarious. Go in a bottle.
You're not serious. Where's that come from? No way! Go! Oh my God! Go! Oh, I can't believe I'm going to do this. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Fine.
Fitzy, you're hilarious.
Look away. You are mental. I can't believe you guys made me do this. You bloody reprobate. Bloody lemonade. Running straight through me. Lemonade wasn't so bloody delicious.
There we go. Right.
That reminds me of an old joke, which I will not tell you.
Okay, well, maybe offline, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so what's my point? But the point is just be careful what messages you're giving out, because they could be misinterpreted. That was an example of a misinterpreted message, and I think humor, well, hopefully humor is a great way to get that across. So I hope that's kind of worked. Most of us are smiling. That's really good. Shall I move on? Fantastic. Okay, right. So passive lead generation examples. I don't even know the show that came from, by the way. I just happened to I think someone sent me a link to it, and I thought that's a great example. So anyway, so examples of passive lead generation is I've sort of referenced these already. It's your website, it's your LinkedIn, and I'm distinguishing here between LinkedIn and social media, because for me, social media is anything apart from LinkedIn. For me, LinkedIn is more than social media. It's a professional networking site. Now, the last 12 months has changed. LinkedIn was becoming a bit like Facebook anyway, and I think that the last 12 months has simply collapsed that timescale. I don't know if anyone else has got an opinion on that. You're very welcome to voice it now. But when I look at some of the posts, what gets people engaged is I put out a bit this morning, which there's no sour grapes about, on the European Super League. And using all my 30 years of experience, it basically came down to, you must take every single stakeholder group with you on this journey. Back to those fans again. It's had a number of views, but very little actual engagement, and it's a bit disappointing, to be absolutely honest. There could be another, whatever it is. And then I look at other people that are doing something which has almost no business relevance. So I'm not even going to pick out an example. It might be I got up early today, or I put something about sunrise in York a couple of days ago. It was one or two and it got 10 times the amount of engagement. So it's very hard to guess what's going to get people engaged. I think the point is that you've got to be sort of consistent around what you stand for. And I do post about wellness or mental health probably 50% of the time, and then some, because the last 12 months has taught me that actually we need to look after ourselves in difficult circumstances. So I do that quite a lot. And then, of course, yes, some sales stuff, which I hope I'm kind of recognized for as well, and engagement on other people's posts. But that's why I distinguish between LinkedIn and social media. So LinkedIn is, I'm engaging with other people's posts. So if you are in the art market, well, in fact, in any market, you don't want to be where your competition is. You don't want to be going to these groups, as I've made the mistake of impressing the socks out of other sales trainers. They're never going to hire me. You want to impress the socks off a sales director who's got a training budget to hire me. Julie, you want to impress the socks off a recruitment director that wants to, I'm going to call it widening participation, but I think because I haven't got all the language in that area, because that's the appeal. That's the person who's going to help you meet your target, not another. I'm going to say another charity. Maybe there are, in your instance, there might be other charities that you collaborate with. But the point is, what's the point of engaging on particular social media? What's your message? What outcome are you trying to bring about? And it's not, my outcomes aren't telling other sales trainers how good or whatever I am. That's not the stakeholder group I'm trying to impress. It's the sales directors, the CEOs, people like that. So transpose that for your business, Liga. You are going to appeal to individuals who are really keen on collecting art. And you are going to show, not by telling them how good you are, but by showing how good you are, how much you know about that art and that craft, what it took to make and what it stands for. You can bring them in to your world and just impress them with your knowledge and the value that you can add, and why they buy art in the first place, which I presume is somewhere around enriching their lives in some sense. Okay, that's an amateur's art appraisal for you, but I think you get the point. The point is, go to where your customers are, not where your competitors are. And I see it happen all the time, that everyone goes into the sales groups, business development, and they'll put their point of view across, and they're impressing, or giving away their secrets to the competition, as opposed to giving value to the people that are actually going to pay their mortgages. So it happens all the time. So anyway, I've majored on that. Emily, you have been incredibly quiet. That's most unlike you. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I've just been working all day. So I've submitted my last assignment ever today as well. So I'm just a bit tired.
Okay, that's the big smile on your face then. That's why. I was speaking to a bit of an aside, somebody at Aston Business School, and not Roshana, someone else, and I said, you must be really excited. You've only got 2 chapters to do in your PhD, and it's been 7 years. And she said, I hate it. I've hated it the last 2 years. So, I very much hear you, Emily. Well done for sticking it out. Okay, right. So, okay, so
I just wanted to add as well, I listened to all of your 60-second pitches, and it was really good. I did put you on a night, and I was watching the recording that Keith sent me, and it was really good. Yeah,
well done. Thank you. Which reminds me, I think you owe me a 60-second pitch. I'm not going to put you on the spot now. You did kind of walk into that, but actually, I'd really like to help you on doing that. So just because I might forget, but Emily, just get a half hour in my calendar and we'll work on something for you. Is that all right? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Welcome. So websites. Now this is really, really important. So do you remember about giving out the wrong messages, and sometimes you get the wrong results back to that video? The same is true for your website. What messages are you giving out? Now, I don't normally, when I look at a website, I don't normally get a really strong message and nothing else. The problem I normally come across is websites are trying to tell people too much. And so if it's a bit like trying to sell to everyone, in the end you end up selling to no one because you've not been specific enough in that. And I've got someone looking at my own website, because I can tell you now, nobody likes being told their baby's ugly, and I'm included in that. So I've got someone that's looking at my website, and I found, and this may be helpful for you too, so I found another company sort of in the same line of business, but with a monumental budget to get the stuff like this done. And I've basically said to my website developer, I want one of those. Make mine nice and simple and decluttered, simplified, easy to process and digest. Make it kind of like theirs. That's basically the brief I've given them. And so my message to you is does it clearly state what you do? And mine did, but you sort of had to discard 80% of the images on there to actually get what I did. And it was only by someone telling me that out loud, which I have to say was hard to take, but it's what I needed to hear. And that's the change that my own business has got to go through. So I encourage you to think about that. And that is the same for your LinkedIn profile as well, by the way. What you think it says, you're so close to it. someone else may see it in a slightly different way, or a very different way, actually. So it's a sobering process to go through, but a very important one. And then, assuming your website is the sort of bedrock of your information dissemination, if you like, or your 24/7 shop window, are all the rest of your digital communications, be they email, be they social media posts, are they all aligned with what the website is saying? In terms of the values that you're espousing, in terms of the markets you're trying to appeal to. Often when it comes down to, especially if you've got more than 3 people in social media or digital communications, often you can find 3 different personalities over different parts of the digital footprint. It's really interesting. So someone needs to come in and do an evaluation of, you know, what you're telling me on a piece of paper, your strategy, is that what the website is telling me? It can be a really, really challenging conversation. And search engine optimization. Does anyone know, not heard of search engine optimization? Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, so SEO is, most people have heard of SEO. Most people would say, yeah, I can go into, and I couldn't, by the way, go into Google and work out what the, that's why my website is on Wix. But I know enough to be dangerous on this, which is it needs to be right. It's changing almost every day what people are searching for. It's the master of what happened yesterday. So it's not going to tell you what people are going to be searching for over the next month necessarily. But if you are in sales training, then you need to look at what are people searching for. They're looking for sales training, or they're looking for B2B sales training. The list is endless, and Wix is pretty good because it gives you some sort of green line as to quantity of people that are searching worldwide for that sort of term. So I encourage you to look at that specific to your business, because at the end of the day, algorithm, yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got to, good point, Lisa, leave it to marketing. I sort of agree, but only if they're delivering what you need to deliver for them. And if they're not, then I use a term which I call healthy tension. So that's not butting heads. That's where we're all focused on the same goal, and we're kind of holding their hands, pulling them along with us on the journey, and at some point they may be pulling us along on the journey with them. But the point is, we've got to get this SEO thing right. If you're after leads right here, right now, then really the only thing that's going to deliver that is a paid, the only thing that's going to deliver leads right here, right now is a paid ad campaign from Facebook or Google, and it's costly, but they are leads right here, right now. Would anyone mind if we took a 5-minute break? Would that be okay? Because I'm running out of voice. Is that a bit okay? So I make the time 37 past now. So if we come back at 42, would that be okay? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'll move back to the boardroom, so I might be maybe a minute late. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you momentarily. Well, 5 momentarily.
All right, mate.
Cheers.
See you in a minute, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for being on time.
Time to make a cup of tea.
Yes, yeah, quite right. Well, I just think that we spent loads of time sitting down on Zoom calls all day, so I'm conscious that it's probably very healthy to get up, focus on something else that's good for eye health. I've opened the windows, assuming the geese don't misbehave, then we should be all right. And has anyone got any questions at all over what we've covered so far on this? I was pleased to see a couple of questions came through about the last the last session, which I will answer separately on a follow up to this. But the whole point of this is it's not supposed to be a lecture. I'm really trying hard to get everybody engaged, because the most important things actually, I think, are the conversations that happen in the Zoom room, so to speak, as opposed some of my material I hope is useful, but actually it's the conversations that come from you guys which are probably absolutely more important. Okay, brilliant. Okay, that's it. Phil did say he'd be a minute or so late, but if everyone's okay, and Phil, if you're looking at this again on the tape, then we're going to carry on if that's okay. So excuse me, on the we've just been covering about websites. Just to cover off on that, I want to talk about something called live chat, and depending on which product you buy, but live chat is basically does everyone know what that is, by the way? Maybe yes, maybe no, but I don't know. This is a revelation to me. I did a turnaround project for not Aston, but another management school, and I had my interview in early July, and they were in danger of not getting the minimum 20 they needed for their MBA course. And I said to them, when's the drop dead? And they said it's the 31st of August. Okay, we've got 7 weeks. How many have you got so far? And they said 2. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've never even been to university, so I had no idea what I'm doing, other than I've got to believe we've got some clever people around the table. So we got those clever people around the table, and I mapped out where do we actually get to engage with people. And it was basically those people that had already made their minds up, they wanted to come to this management school and do an MBA. That was the first point they ever heard about. They got a completed application form. That was it. So I broke it down piece by piece, and I said, well, surely we've got to get some leads from the website. We discovered this thing called live chat, and I'm going back 4 years actually, so it's relatively recently. And what that did, and I think this might be really useful, Liga, certainly for your business, but all of us where we've got that sort of intimate connection, and maybe even for the chamber as well. I can't tell you what a revelation it was. I thought, well, I'm going to get live chat installed on my phone, and I'm going to engage with those people, because that's actually my job in that context. I'm going to get live chat installed on my phone, but I probably want someone to cover it at lunchtime, 12:30 till 1:30, just while I go out for a sandwich, a cup of coffee, whatever it happens to be. So the light bulb moment for me was, guess how many people are searching for MBAs during their lunch hour? 0. I'll tell you when I got that sort of metaphorical tap on the shoulder that someone wants to talk to someone else about MBAs, 2 in the morning. Because it's global. So 2 in the morning here is someone else's 9 o'clock or 7 in the morning. At 6 in the morning, generally when the children are in bed and parents or the grown-ups have got thinking space, reflections. And this is about This is about being in your customers' shoes. They're not doing it at lunchtime. They haven't got time. They're having lunch or meetings or whatever it happens to be. They're doing it when it's dead quiet for them, and they can concentrate, because an MBA is supposed to be, you know, a life-changing sort of experience to go through, learning and all the rest of it. And that was well, kind of what it was a good point of discovery. Point being is that once we'd understood that, and I, because I'm one of those irritating husbands that sits there in front of the TV all night, and I've got my phone next to me and I just respond to it. And, you know, sometimes when you're a consultant, you haven't got any choice. You've got to make hay while the sun's shining, or you're being paid, one of those things. So that's what I did, and I engaged. Anyway, we've got 23 over the line by 31st of August. Point being is that leads have a bit of a half-life. I've also done some work for a guy who's not very glamorous business, but he's made a lot of money. He cleans bins. He goes around housing estates, and he's got one of the great big pressure washers. And on the day after bin day, when it's all empty, he goes around and empties these bins, and he's got a big franchise, and he's franchised it out UK, and he makes loads of money doing that. I'd swap places with him in a heartbeat. When I first started working with him, he was just on his own, and this is the difficulties of working on your own. Sometimes is he would get a lead on his Facebook campaign, and of course he'd be driving, so he couldn't respond to it then. He'd then get to the housing estate wherever he was going. He'd work all morning, and he would maybe have a look at lunchtime. By that time, that lead has gone somewhere else, because if you think about what you're doing, you want to buy something or other. You don't want to spend time thinking about it. There's very little loyalty. You've got no one to be loyal to. You think, well, okay, I haven't got any response off that one, I'm going to go to the next one. That's the way we're all thinking these days. And yeah, okay, right. So maybe there's an opportunity, you know, for someone, particularly if you're rewarded to sell stuff. Maybe there's an opportunity to put live chat on phones. Most of the time there is a smartphone option, iOS or Android or whatever it happens to be. So point being is they have a half-life. You've got to be on it. And if you're going to pay hundreds of pounds for a paid ads campaign, you've got to meet the campaign halfway and be there to respond to leads right there, right then. It could be even a holding message. I'm out at the moment. Would you mind if I if I connected with you at lunchtime or later on this afternoon, whenever's convenient with you? Just in case anyone's sat there thinking, Keith, for God's sake, this is really, really basic. Yeah, you are absolutely right. And business is all about getting the basics absolutely right. It's about, you know, when someone, particularly if they're a demanding high net worth client, they want a response right now. And so live chat might just be a bit of a savior for you. So
can I make a comment there, Keith? There are some that look like live chat, but actually they're an email function. Okay. And that can be quite good as well, because at least then you've captured them at the point that they were curious and they had a question. So you go into it like live chat and you'll have a return that says, we've got your message and we'll respond when we can. But then at least now we've got their email address, their phone number, and we can follow up. But at least it takes the pressure off people who don't want to be on 24/7. A lot of it's about capturing them at their point of interest, isn't it?
You are, of course, absolutely right. Thanks for that, Julie. And people have different needs, but no one needs to hope and pray someone's going to get a hold of it. We just need to be told someone will be back to you very quickly. At least you know they've got it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
You know that you're in, you're being attended to, so to speak. That's the important thing. How many times have we sort of sent an email, we're not even sure if it's arrived, and all the rest of it. This is so simple, yet so many businesses really don't do this very well at all. And if you've if you just let me finish a second, Phil. If you're dealing with particularly high net worth individuals, they don't like waiting because time is literally money for them. Sorry, Phil.
No, I agree with what you said. I think I've sold both very rapid transaction deals and also very long, complex deals. I think the greater the emotional involvement from the person that's inquiring, and the quicker the transaction is going to be, the quicker you got to follow up. If I'm selling a $2 billion, light aircraft deal, I can, someone calls me up today, I can probably wait till tomorrow to call back, right? But if someone's phoning up on an emotional kind of, with a lot of emotion involved, like a friend of mine used to sell for the Daily Telegraph, and there literally was somebody walking around the office, making sure you close that now, otherwise they're going to go to the Evening Standard, or they're going to go to the financial, or, you know what I mean? So, you've really got to get on it really quickly if it's a kind of low value and if someone's got a high emotional investment.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. Really good shout. And what you were talking about with the aircraft example just then, that's what's called a highly considered purchase in marketing terms. Highly considered purchase. It costs a lot of money. It's not something you typically buy on a whim. And they probably approach it in the same fashion as well. So you're right, something like that probably can wait, but it's incredibly, why take the risk? That's my point. Get in touch, but don't appear desperate at the same time, because that's a fine balance as well. But just keenness is always good. Okay, right, let's carry on. Okay, passive lead again. Right, now, have we talked about social selling index yet? I know I've mentioned it to one people. Okay, can you, if you've got your smartphones with you just at the minute, just go to Safari on mine, but go to the browser and then put in LinkedIn social selling index, and then search, and it should come up with a page that kind of looks like that. You've got two options, one on the right, which is not very well colored in, get your score. If you click on that, it's going to recognize your profile, most likely, if you've got settings up, and it will tell you your social selling index. Is it everyone getting that? And it should tell you where you are.
Is it one of the first ones? Because I got lots, but there's like Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Sales Solutions.
You have to sign into Sales Navigator.
Sales Navigator.
Okay.
No, I'm saying I can't do it either, Leah, because it says get your score free, but it still wants me to sign into Sales Navigator, which I don't have an account for.
So it's like start.
It's not it's not a pay for option. It's a LinkedIn basic. Okay.
Can you explain it again, please, Keith? I kind of got confused.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's.
Harder thinking.
In your you work on your. Will it work on your desktop? It should work on your desktop as well if you've got it set up. Go to that's the one. That's the one. So go to your browser and go LinkedIn space social space selling space index, search. And it should come up with a LinkedIn Sales Solutions. I don't know if that's a page.
Yeah, got that. Yeah.
You've got that pulling well done. Yeah. Two options. You've got Learn More on the left. Click on the one on the right, get your score. I don't want to lose too much time on this, but this is really interesting. This is around your digital.
It's asking me to sign in.
Is it? Sorry, you may need to download the app in that case.
If you can sign in, you should already be. Mine just come up automatically. It might be because I'm already signed in. I don't know, but I've just sign in, and it just took me to it.
Okay. I'll let you guys, by all means, carry on with that if you want to, but it will, point is, it will tell you where you are at this point in time in relation to the whole of LinkedIn, and also in relation to your network, the network that you're a part of. So it's a really good snapshot for how effective you are at building relationships, at selling. I hesitate to say selling online, but because I don't mean actual selling online, but your basically your presence on LinkedIn, how present you are, and what it is. It's really okay. It sounds like you've got there, Julie, have you?
Yeah, I did manage to get in. I'm a 60. I think that's quite good. Happy with that.
I think I'm 10.
Fantastic.
But I did go on to one of your sessions before about LinkedIn, Keith.
Okay. Well, you still
63. Is that good?
You what? Sorry.
63.
What out of 100?
Yeah.
Yeah, down the bottom. That's very, very good. Yeah. The point is, that's worth monitoring every month or so to look at, am I making progress in that particular digital world? That's worth doing. So this is your baseline, base zero, if you like, is where whatever score you've got right here, right now. Now that you know about that, maybe that's something that you can sort of bear in mind as you kind of move forward. I didn't want to major too much on that, but we probably have already. Anyway, your SSI score is kind of important. We already talked about headline self-employed, and I don't want to major too much on LinkedIn here either. You're very welcome to come on an open call, and I'll go through details of LinkedIn, but it's incredibly important if you're in the business-to-business market, which we all are. Connecting with relevant others. I've been on here since 2004, when LinkedIn was a babe, and so I've acquired a few connections since then, but I would encourage you to, I'll tell you who's really good at this is Paul Cadman. Paul Cadman connects relentlessly. And I remember him telling this story about, he told it a couple of years ago at Chutney and Chat, which is a networking thing in Birmingham. He got a call from someone in his network who he didn't really know that well, saying, I'm after an estate agent in Moscow. Do you know anyone? And he said, actually, I do. Because, and he put him on to someone in Savills in Moscow, which is apparently a massive office. And he was just able to make that connection because I know Paul's been involved in property, he's into everything, Paul, in a really good way. Property development is probably one of those things as well. You just happen to know someone. There are some people you can go to that are just like that. And my mate Kevin in Bogota, Colombia, when I worked for NCR, I was trying to get something out of customs in whatever Bogota airport's called, a Cisco router or something like that. It was just stuck. Had to try and get it out of customs. I phoned our in-country person. Can you help me with this? Anyway, he had the broadest Brummie or Black Country accent. So not expecting that. I was expecting at least an American accent, but and he just knew absolutely everyone in Latin America, and he's a connection of mine still. And you will meet people like that, probably meet maximum of 5 in your lifetime, but they're people that just know everyone. And if you know someone like that, they're incredibly valuable to you. So make sure you curate those kind of relationships too. Anyway, so
Keith,
yeah.
Paul Cadman's one of our, he's a patron, but he's also a very big ambassador for St Basil's. Yeah. So for Ligar and Emily, starting out your new business, I cover the Coventry and Warwickshire area for St Basil's, so I'm actively looking for a Paul Cadman in that area. So this might help you with your business, somebody who talks about who's got a massive network, but is really they're quite passionate about what you're doing, and then they can be your voice in areas that you'd never be able to. You probably may already have them, but that they can do great things for you on top of all the advertising, on top of all the money that you spend on marketing. Just that person in a room speaking to somebody about what you guys do.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've heard of the network connectors, community connectors, they're new. So they're a new initiative that have been brought around Edgbaston and Northfield like that. And their job is literally to connect everybody. So and like funding streams and everything, and then they'll talk and advocate for different organisations.
Yeah.
So
oh no, I'd not heard of them. Thank you.
It's been a long time coming, honestly. Like, I don't know why it hasn't been happened ages ago, but that's what it is. It's just someone to join all the dots together and place everyone where they need to.
What are they called? Sorry again. What are they called?
They're called community networkers. So I can give you the details actually, because they're literally trying to connect with everybody.
Okay.
That is a really good shout. This is only an opinion, it's not a tested opinion. A bit like trying to sell to everyone, you end up selling to no one. If you connect with absolutely everyone with no particular strategy or focus around that, I am wondering if that's a really helpful thing to do. If you connect, so Paul knows everyone, he's been around a long time, he won't mind me saying that, I'm sure, but he's involved in property development, hence he gets a call about property development, you know, so and so, and he really can. He's involved a lot in the charitable community, and he's been incredibly generous with his time and expertise and connections with me. That's why I'm a big fan of everything Paul does. And there will be people in your networks, it may not be Paul, maybe other people, maybe someone in Barcelona for you, Phil. Somehow people gravitate towards them. I'm almost envious of that kind of popularity, if you like. But actually knowing how, and I want to be careful with my words here, knowing how to make use of that contact without abusing the privilege is a very fine line. So I know there's lots of things I could go to Paul for a bit of help about, but I'm quite sparing when I do it because he's got many other people asking, and you will each know someone in that position as well. So you need to know that when you do go and ask for help from that person, you actually do need help, and only they can kind of help you out. You've exhausted all the other options, so keep those people on side.
Yeah. Don't forget your chambers of commerce as well, because that's our job, is to actually help businesses connect and grow. That's our motto. So, you know, if you're a member of a chamber of commerce, speak to your relationship manager, ask them how to connect with the right sort of businesses for your business. And by the way, I just finally managed to get onto my social selling index of 76.
Yay, well done. And one more thing, capture them at the point of contact. So if you notice, I added you all on LinkedIn the second that Keith sent me that email, and now you're all stuck with me for life until you delete me. But that's one of the ways to do it, because LinkedIn is kind of passive that way. But if not, if I don't do it right there and then and just connect with people, then it's easy to let things pass. But now we're part of each other's networks. It's done.
Yeah. That's a really good shout, actually. So I think there's a strong, and I don't know the science behind this, there is a strong correlation in an electronic network, like this is a social network, and the plasticity in the brain. I think they're similar structures, and there's probably some research out about that. So when you connect with Julie in this case, you'll know, oh yeah, that was on the sales masterclass, and that will be wired into your brain about the context in which you connected with Julie or with Liga or whoever it happens to be. That is really important, and it's that also has a half-life. So if you left it a month, it may not have as much meaning or as much resonance in the mind. So, but now we're all in. Julie's consciousness, so to speak. Will all those connections will mean something as we go forward, so they become really valuable. It's a good shout. Good shout, Julie. Thank you. Am I okay to sort of? Oh, I want to share screen as well. There you go. That would help, wouldn't it? Okay, right. So right back here again. Connect with relevant others. So purposefulness. So to speak. Now, for some reason, I've lost you again. Okay, right. Can you see me at least, or see the screen? Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
right. For some reason I've lost you on my screen, but anyway, here we are. Okay, right. So we talked about that. Passive lead generation number 3, podcast I've talked about, reference before. Active lead generation. I want to give 4 examples of active lead generating activities, not all of which can take place at the minute, but active lead campaigns. I just want to reference these. Come off of mute because I can't see anyone, so if you want to say something, come off of mute and speak away. But anyway, we talked about paid ads, expensive, potentially, especially if not done right. We had an Airbnb in York, and I'm going back 3, well, still got it, but I'll go back 3-4 years for this example. I didn't know what I was doing on paid ads, and I spent £500 a month for 3-4 months with on Facebook. I thought I was being meticulous in selecting what kind of person is going to likely be interested in an Airbnb in York, and they're probably retirees, etc., and that kind of demographic. I didn't get one inquiry and I spent £2,000 in doing that, not one inquiry. So that was an important lesson learned. You must have an expert who really knows what they're doing. It'll cost you a little bit more, but you will get a return on your investment. Let me come off. Did someone want to say something? Yes, no? Okay, right, let's carry on. Share again. There we go. Right, telephone. We've already talked about telephone is really, really difficult. I'll come to that in a second, but I want to give you a bit of a script that will help you get over the line. Just briefly, trade shows and exhibitions. I know we can't do them. Some of them are taking place virtually, but I don't know anyone that's had a really positive or productive experience. Lisa, I'm happy to be proven right, because I know the Chamber has done a number of not just networking events, but actual conferences online. I haven't found anyone that's had a really, really positive experience.
Keith, I staged a couple last year, and if you stage them right, you will be able to give plenty of leads to the people who pay to exhibit. But they're the only people who will get any leads, basically.
Okay, so for me, and this is only my opinion, but half the value in going to trade shows and exhibitions is actually who you bump into when you're walking around casually, right? And you can't replicate easily that experience in a virtual session. You just can't. That's where the limitations are. So if you're in an in-person art conference or your gallery, big opening for a gallery, you're going to bump into some people which are really valuable to your business, or potentially really valuable, and you can have those impromptu, spontaneous conversations, and they can be really, really productive. It's very, very hard to do that virtually. I don't know anyone that's mastered it. If you've found a way of making that work, Phil, fantastic, but it's just not been my experience.
No, I agree with you, Keith. It wasn't working like that. This is the point. I mean, we had I don't know, like 15 or 20 exhibitors. They're all paying upwards of 5,000 euros each.
Yeah.
For a 2 or 3 day event, and they got the names and email addresses of all of the attendees, but nobody else got anything. So you had to stump up money. You had to stump up a lot of money to get anything.
Yeah.
That's not for everybody.
No, of course. That's a really good shout.
You get nothing for 500 euros, believe me.
Story of my life.
The cost of leads was around, I think it was about 100 euros per lead.
So that goes back to cost to acquire. How much is it?
Yeah, and if we did a webinar, how much is it for a webinar? 200 times 40.
Bill,
Yeah, about
sorry.
40 or 50.
Can I stop you there? I want to crack. I want to be respectful of finishing at 5:30 UK. That's all, if I can. Thank you. The last thing on this bit I want to talk about is networking, because I'm pleasantly surprised that actually virtual networking online on screen can actually work. There is a way to make it work. And Pauline, you're nodding as well. I hope you've. In fact, I think that's where we originally met, wasn't it? Virtually. Online. It's a surprisingly productive, I was about to say pastime, but endeavor. If you're purposeful, if you know why you're going there, who you're kind of looking for, and all the rest of it, and you're receptive to other messages, there is a way to do that. And even now, and I think I'm reasonably well versed in doing a 60-second pitch, but I still have that thing I did with you and the Chamber a few weeks back, Lisa. I still have my top 3 sort of bullet points that I want to stress in front of me, because I wander off at the easiest, really easily. There you go, Phil. Yeah, very good. So I still have that, and I have it on a. I've cleared up my desk, but I normally have it on a post-it in the top left-hand corner. So I'm looking into the camera, looking at you, looking you in the eye, so to speak, but I can see my 3 points in my peripheral vision, and it looks like I'm being articulate. So that's a cheat right there for you. But the point is that I may not even look at it. I may be able to, but sometimes we can just get distracted and lose up where we are. It's really, really important. If you're only going to get 60 seconds FaceTime, you've got to make it count. So networking, I would highly recommend. Now, for me, I've got 1 or 2 underlying sort of health situations, as Mrs. R. So we're not going to be comfortable face-to-face networking probably for the rest of this year. I've had my first jab, and I'm not going to be unique in that. Other people are going to be in that place. Some are going to be really comfortable. If you go into the middle of York now, it's like the whole world has descended on York. It's beautiful weather. It's a great place to be. But they're all networking and all of that. I recognize I may lose opportunities, but that's my choice. That's the choice I'm choosing to make. Okay, right. Active Legion, I've done that. Active Legion, the telephone. Yeah, okay, right. I'm gonna share this because this is quite visual. Right, so I'm going to talk about this in terms of a 60-second pitch, but also a telephone cold call. Okay, so let's imagine, now Phil, I can't see you, but let's say I'm going to phone Phil up and I'm going to cold call you. Now, obviously, Phil isn't just waiting for my phone call. He's almost certainly on the phone to someone else or in a spreadsheet or doing something else. So the first thing I want to do is get hold of him on the phone, and then working left to right. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to have to interrupt Phil's whatever he's choosing to do. I'm going to have to interrupt him and really actively interrupt him. So if any of you have received a call from a call center in the last couple of years or so, they're trying to be your best friends. That seems to be their strategy. How are you today? Da, 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 da. Nobody needs that. If you're cold calling someone, particularly if they're a senior manager or a wealthy business person, whatever it happens to be, you need to get straight to the point and really quickly. And the way that you do that is you're disarmingly honest, and that you give them what's called a pattern interrupt. So Phil picks up the phone. I'm going to say, Phil, is that Phil? He's going to say, yeah. I'm going to say, Phil, I'm going to be completely honest. This is a bit of a cold call. have you got 30 seconds, and then you can decide whether it's worth proceeding. Now, Phil might decide to be awkward for the purposes of this call and say no. But 99% of the time, 99% of the time, if you tell people, I'm just going to be 30 seconds and then you can tell me if you're interested or not, they're going to go, okay, shoot, go, you've got 30 seconds. And that's where you deliver your 30-second pitch. And it will be something around, we typically deal with two different kinds of customer. One that's looking to improve their sales results because they're not closing enough deals, and the other because they're looking to hire some more salespeople because they're being fantastically successful. Don't suppose you're grappling with either of those two issues, are you? I didn't time that, but it's probably less than 30 seconds.
Well less.
Okay, there you go. And so I've formed a contract, made an upfront contract with Phil. Let me just come off of share so I can see everyone.
Give them the power, Keith. Give them the power to hang up as well. People
that's right. They're in control. When someone phones you up and, you know, how are you today? Isn't the weather lovely? You know, you're kind of thinking, this could go on quite some time. That's what I'm thinking. I haven't got time for that. So if someone is disarmingly honest with you and they say, it's 30 seconds and then you'll never see me again the rest of your life, you know, or something like that. You're going to, 99% of the time, you have to be really confident as you're articulating this, by the way, otherwise it just won't work. So you need to practice it beforehand. It works, and it works for me, and it worked for many others, I'm sure. As long as you are 30 seconds or less, and they can say, they'll respond to that question, and then you take the call from there. So it's going to be, actually, do you know, we're 100% fine. Thank you very much. You can then ask, well, okay, look, I hope you'll respect the fact that I was really honest with you. I have only been 30 seconds. Is there anyone else in your organization that I can, you know, talk to, might be interested in this, or in your professional network? You may get something out of that. They might say, actually, do you know what? You speak to someone at the Black Country Chamber of Commerce, they might just be interested in something like that. You speak to, or whatever it is, you might just get something, but you'll have formed a really good impression. If nothing else, assuming they're the kind of person you want to talk to, your minimum acceptable result from that call could be, hey, listen, you're not in the market right now. I do appreciate that, but could we connect on LinkedIn? And I was silent deliberately then, just to get people nodding. But that could be your minimum acceptable.
It's something at every call.
And every call. And if you're making, you know, 5 a day, 25 a week, 100 a month, you can dramatically increase the size and quality of your network, because most of your business is going to come from your network. Okay.
Offer them a chance to hang up, and I swear to you, no one's ever done it to me.
Okay, well, that sounds like a challenge.
I'm serious. Listen, I've been living in Spain for 25 years. Because, oh, no, it's different here in Spain. No, it's not. So I used to phone people up and say, look, you don't know who I am. I'm from an American software company. I want 60 seconds of your time. If you don't like what I'm saying at any moment, up until the 60 seconds are up, put the phone down. I don't care. And nobody ever did.
And that's a really good shout, because generally I've got to believe most humans want to be kind to each other. As long as you tell them what the rules of the game are, and which you respect those and you observe those, you'll be okay. And because humans tend to behave, you know, reasonably well most of the time. Okay, right. So and then the call to action, that could be a LinkedIn connection at the very minimum, or it could be, let's set up a meeting or a Zoom call. Now, I'm working with a couple of clients at the moment where, although we've had to resort to Zoom, they've enjoyed the experience and it's been so productive for them. They've actually baked it into their sales process now, where they've reduced their fuel costs, their travel costs by 2/3. They're only spending 1/3 of what they were originally, because they're not going out. They're purposefully, Zoom or a video call is the next step, and then only if it is in the interest of both parties, then they're traveling to meet where possible or where it's legal. It's not always in this country. But the point is, they're being much more productive, much more purposeful in their activities. That's the point. So if anyone wants to practice their cold calling, very welcome to do that with me. And I do this all the time with clients, so I'm very happy to do that. Okay, right. So, and then the referrals at the bottom there, which you can't see at the minute, is referrals on ecosystem. Right, done all that, done all that, done all that. Actively, okay. Well, I am gonna share this just a second because we're talking about trade shows and exhibitions. I know they're going to be they're going to be relevant pretty soon. Depending on are people allowed to meet face to face in Spain at the moment, Phil, or is it all stay at home?
So they're talking about lifting restrictions as from the 9th of May. But we'll see. The death rate's gone down quite a lot. Yeah,
same here, and we're. I'm still not comfortable, but it is permissible to meet outside here in the UK.
I don't like it.
Okay, right. As long as you don't sit down, apparently. Okay, right. So trade shows and exhibitions. Hopefully, you can see this. Okay, so trade shows and exhibitions are incredibly tiring. A lot of people will view salespeople or representatives on a stand. They think it's all a giggle, coffee and donuts all day, and sometimes it can be, but it's incredibly tiring standing up there for any more than an hour at a time. So if you are doing these things, it's really important that you have an hour on, 15 minutes off to recharge the brain. It's a bit like being on Zoom calls all day, incredibly intense, tiring. You're on show all the time. You must have those 15 minutes to recharge and then to walk around, get the blood pumping, take a break, in other words, and then go back. You've also got to understand what's your raison d'etre, what's your objective of being there, take your materials, have those regular breaks, and networking opportunities, as Phil alluded to. If you're spending all that money, you want to make sure you're getting those networking opportunities as well. And sometimes the point of being at these events is who you're going to run into, as we've already sort of suggested. For me, that is an example of an active lead generation kind of campaign. So even though it costs €5,000 or pounds to go to some of these events, it can be incredibly profitable. I'm doing some work with a client in the northwest of England who makes who manufactures leisure bedding for Winnebagos, RVs, things like that. And they make all the bedding for all of that. And prior to the pandemic, they got almost all of their leads from 2 trade shows, one in the UK and one on the continent. Can't remember which one it's called, but they basically formed relationships at those events, and they developed all of their leads. Now, obviously, that you've got an overly dominant channel to market there. We talked about channels to market last week. It was all coming from those 2 events, and so we've had to rapidly pivot. I really dislike that word, but we have had to change the way they do business in order to compensate for the lack of ability to meet face to face, and they've been really successful so far in doing that. Okay, right, networking. Okay, right, so just Lisa, I hope you'll notice that on groups, networking groups, the chamber is at the top for this one. So networking works virtually and face to face. We've already talked about that. Know what your objective is. Don't be selling all the time. That's really, really tiresome. You are there to build relationships. If you're going into, if BNI appeals to you, it's not really my thing, but they can be incredibly effective for, particularly for painters and decorators in the trades. That can be work really well. But it can take 8 or 9 months to develop sufficient relationships to start generating business. You have to give it time. It's not an instant thing. And if you go in with the attitude of always in sales mode, if you know anyone that works for utilities warehouse or multi-level marketing or whatever it happens to be, these people are in sales mode all the time. Some aren't. There are some good ones, but actually not so much. So you need to be careful. And I've covered off about etiquette with, oh, by the way, let me just come off of this so I can actually see you. When it goes back to business as usual, we're all allowed out. Hands up if you are going to actually shake hands. Okay, most of us actually. I am.
And kiss. It's rude not to kiss in Spain.
Yeah, of course. The point is, I don't think there's any right or wrong answers. It's very personal to you. My sense is I'm not going to be going out face-to-face networking probably the rest of this year, and by that time I'll have had my second jab and I'll be more confident. Here's the point. It can be incredibly insulting to someone or embarrassing for both parties if you're not going to shake hands but someone else puts their hand out to you. You're rejecting them. So my advice is, if you are going to meet someone and you book it over the phone or an email or something like that, tell them in advance. Tell them in advance, I'm really sorry we're not shaking hands, or something like that. That saves that embarrassment. Now, that might be a very British approach, but it's the safe approach. It's the cautious approach, and I think the responsible one, and bear that in mind. And do whatever you feel comfortable in line with whatever the other person feels comfortable doing. So you're right, Phil. What you were saying just then around, you know, the cultural norms in your country or in Italy, where it's, and France, of course, well, in fact, most of continental Europe, we wouldn't do that, particularly in the UK, but we probably would shake hands. So I'm probably going to put my hand on my heart or something like that. It's just, I hope you don't mind, but I'm not shaking hands at the moment. I've got to believe most people would be accepting of that explanation. And frankly, if they're not, I don't want them in my business or as a customer then, but maybe I can make that choice. But the point is, I'm thinking about it in advance because it's going to be a big deal. All right. Okay. Okay. Right. So let's have a look. We are into, my goodness, actually, Jan, I'm going to sum up. Let me go to this. Right now, share that again. Here we go. Okay, so two types of lead generation. There's active and the right elevator pitch we talked about, or 60-second pitch for your company's offer. You've got to practice it, and I was really proud to see those pitches come through next week. They will need more practice, of course, and then it will be fantastic to hear, have you actually used it in anger, so to speak, and what happened as a result? I'd love to find out some answers to those stories. In terms of the active lead gen and getting people on the phone, the concept of that upfront contract, can I have 30 seconds of your time? And then you can decide whether it's worth continuing the call or not. That's an upfront contract over the phone. Let me know if you try it and what's happened. I would love to know that. You may not want to tell the whole group. You might want to drop me a line, but I would love to know that. And then confirming next steps. We know this time next week, we're going to be coming back for the next session. We know that that's going to be the next step, but confirming the next step. If you don't do that, you've just had tea and biscuits, which is very pleasant, but actually, you know, not necessarily desperately productive. And then paid ads, live chat, respond quickly because they've got a half-life. The response may only be, we'll come back to you, but at least they know they're being dealt with. It's incredibly important. Otherwise, you're literally burning cash or wasting your money. So attract, convert, retain, that's passive lead generation. I'm talking about your customer journey, which we will have more of later in the series. And don't take your channels for granted. Actually test for what's working, because the world changes on a 24-hour basis at the moment. What worked yesterday may not work tomorrow, and vice versa. And look at your KPIs. Actually look at the last 3 major contracts that you sold or deals that you did. Where did they come from? Be analytical, and that will tell you where the return on effort is coming from. Google Analytics, by the way, again, not we'll be having people on the series that are much more expert in that. I'm not an expert. It is free, one of the best free tools on the market. We will make good use of that as we go through. And then a call to action, whatever it happens to be. Meet, Zoom, look at our website, get a referral, whatever that happens to be. And then your social selling index, now that we've got that, and if you haven't, I'll send out some written instructions if you like. And then make a goal. Where are you now in that social selling index? Where do you want to be in 3 months' time? And like all goals, they should be smart. Okay, right. I'm going to come off of there. Are there, 2 minutes over time, I do apologize. Are there any questions?
Emily, could you just share the details for the network connectors, please, just in the chat, if that's okay? I think you're still on mute.
If you want to send me a private email, I can introduce you. I can send an introduction.
Yeah, lovely, thank you. Yeah, do I have your email address? If you put your email address in, that'd be lovely, thank you.
Yeah, are you all connected to each other? Are you connected to each other on LinkedIn? Because we kind of should be. Okay, that's
I think we just have.
All right. Okay.
So that's my email address. So if anyone wants me to send them an introduction, I will. They're really nice as well, so they're really welcoming.
Fantastic, well done. Okay, you may not have questions now. If you have got any that you think of afterwards, drop me a line and I'll do a follow-up video and answer that. But I hope that's been helpful today. Next week we're gonna be talking about actually one of my it's my favorite part, which is finding out what the customer really wants to buy and using that as a way to differentiate yourself from your competition by asking great questions. I'm really looking forward to that, and I always look forward to that. So in the meantime, have a fantastic rest of the week. Try and take some time off and enjoy the weather. Anything else, let me know, but take care in the meantime.
Liam.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Liga, have you got a question?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I want to approach cold email businesses like Bentley's or huge in companies in a cold call and say, look, I am this new business, and I would want to introduce art into your environment. Is that something that could be potentially approached?
Okay. Sorry, I got most. There you are. Okay, right, you're on a different part of my screen now. Sorry, so you want to send in a cold email?
Yeah, cold email to huge, large businesses, cooperatives, I don't know, banks and offices, huge offices that want to decorate, especially now they all talk about how to introduce people back, how to make it environment friendly, like sending to, for example, because I'm getting lots of connections now with artists, and it is really very interesting, but lots of artists come back to me saying, thank you for your comment. We really appreciate your high knowledge. And I'm going, oh my God, this is really refreshing, because I don't really see myself as that. I only comment from the perspective of critical approach and creative kind of critical approach. And then and I was just kind of sitting and thinking that some artists say to me, can you tell us your art? Can you help us to sell art? And they all ask people. I also emailed a gallery, which is a huge gallery, Maddox in London, and they are everywhere around the world. I emailed them saying, when do you open your doors for visitors? In half an hour, even less, they called me back saying, we know, we can see you've got this company. Can we work with you? We will give you a percentage on a sale. And I was like, hold on. I wasn't really expecting this call, and I'm actually not an expert in art world. I'm an expert in craft world, but I will be people, and I'm really appreciating your response. And then within like 15 minutes, they emailed me this huge database of what's been happening in the investment world in art, and I was like, wow, that's very responsive and that's very amazing. But now I'm kind of thinking that I need to get myself known to businesses, because I think for me to reach out first personal level will take a while, because I don't know people. I don't know people who will buy. I know my ideal customer, but I need to find them, and it will take a while. And I was thinking, how can I approach it on an executive level and send email to huge companies, for example, like this Stag, who is multi-billion racehorsing environment. They have independent clubs, and they have this environment where they have members who pay thousands and thousands of pounds, or golf courses and everything. And they all probably sitting, and lots of people even have told me, I've got all this art, I'm bored of. I need to update. What do I do? Where do I start? And I was just sitting, listening to your today's thing about all the cold calling and stuff like that. And I was thinking, well, is that something that I could do? Could I just go to these people and I say, I'll bring art to you, I will upgrade your environment, I will help you, and I will charge very reasonable price. I will give competitive prices to you, and really acknowledging, and really, what do you think?
I think that's entirely possible, Liga. That you and worthwhile endeavour. The effort that you're going to have to put in is researching who to phone, and who buys art like that, or how to approach them. But I've got to believe that would be a productive activity for you, and it's an example of where you're becoming a sniper, so to speak, singling out your target as opposed to scattergunning with messages, mud against the wall, as the expression would go. But I've got to believe, if you think about it, and I'll be happy to jump on a call with you and sort of brainstorm this a little bit, but I'll bet, because I've been to, well, same as Phil, I'm sure, but in the City of London, which I know fairly well, you can go to the 16th floor of Credit Suisse's building, and there are the most amazing works of art where their private client meeting rooms are sculptures, paintings, all sorts of other things. So somebody buys that. Now, who it is probably the head of corporate services, something like that, the person that owns real estate.
Like my husband is a lawyer, and he was a partner at Simmons and Simmons, and he took me in, and Simmons and Simmons has a huge collection, and saw all the banks, because what they do, they invest.
Yeah.
They invest into art, helping out upcoming potential artists. So they allocate one person who is very interested and very good at spotting talents, and that person, it just can be a lawyer on side. That person just deals with this site, and the gallery was full of amazing multi-million pieces on an early stage of the artist.
Yeah.
And so those are the banks and stuff like that, they all have a person in, they have somebody that does it. What I was thinking is more like the clubs and this, like large level businesses, or I don't know, I just need to kind of see how does that work.
Well,
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
Yes.
please do. It's not a question I've ever been asked before, and so I'm going to need a while to think.
Right.
Phil, you go ahead.
I've written down listening to Liga is this, right? You're either gonna have to approach this via human resources, which is going to be slow, and it's all going to be about their policy and their strategy and da 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 da. Or you get immediate sponsorship from a person in the senior leadership team who happens to be an art aficionado. Right, those are the two paths I see. And I would be looking at creating a absolutely compelling Instagram series of posts of works of art and setting yourself up as an expert and an authority on art of whatever kind it is. I'd be looking for mailing lists, which you can or cannot buy from auction houses, the Rotary Club, and start getting introduced to other legal firms by your husband or his accountant or their accountants, because they've all got very high net worth leadership people.
Yeah,
right?
hold on. I really want that. Those points. Any chance you could email them, because all these are expressions and people in the high end that I actually don't know how to Google them, because I've never been involved, like a mailing list from auction houses. You said I can buy something like mailing lists from auction. I'm not an auction house, and I never came to me across that actually I could.
I have a mailing list. You just have to try and get them to sell it to you.
Exactly. So any chance that I need to let Keith go, you could email that to me. I was trying to find you on a LinkedIn, but I couldn't. So
yeah, sure. The other thing I suggested, you mentioned golf club. You can sponsor prizes at a golf club. Golf clubs have a minimum 2 tournaments per month, and they may have. When I used to play, there were 4 or 5 annual tournaments, and in return for the list of names and email addresses of the members of the golf club, you could sponsor a trophy.
When you say sponsor trophy, so what you're suggesting, that's something that Liga could do? Is that what?
Yeah. So I mean, you think about a posh golf club. Where do you live, Liga?
In London.
London, right. So think about a posh golf club like where Thatcher's husband used to play. I think it's Sydenham Hill, right? So where Dennis Thatcher used to play. And it's one of the few golf courses in central London. I mean, bloody hell, the Prime Minister's husband used to play there. They're worth a few bob, right? So if they've got an annual tournament, the annual club competition, it might cost you like £1,000 or £2,000 or something to put together some kind of sexy prize. But you might have to go to 5 or 6 golf clubs before they let before you get an agreement. But you would get the names of 500 high net worth individuals for your £2,000.
That is a really. I was actually. I don't know Sydenham Hill, but I know St George's Hill, which I don't know if you know St George's Hill, Phil. That's near Weybridge, southwest.
Heard of it? I used to play at Silvermere.
Oh yeah, of course, with Jerry and all that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well you know how badly I played then. But St George's Hill is probably one of the, apart from 199 Knightsbridge, it's probably some of the most expensive real estate in England.
Yeah.
And Cliff Richard lives there, etc., etc. And
but think about the members of the golf club, not where the golf club is. Because there's some posh golf clubs are not near posh places, right? So
well,
Silvermere's got another
Golf
one.
Club is actually on St George's Hill. So
St John's, yeah.
Yeah, so Silvermere's got another one down off the A24. I can't remember the name of it right now. And it was like there's Silvermere was where I used to play. Then there's got the Silvermere VIP Club, and they would only let people play if they're really good golfers. They got a real load of money. Right, and that's how golf clubs work.
Would that be for me easier way to get through without paying £2,000?
Yeah.
No, that's what you got to do. I mean, if you want really good leads, right, of really good people who earn a lot of money, you pay a lot of money for them. You're not going to get them for peanuts.
But would they disclose? Don't they have like a legal obligations not to disclose their clients' list?
Yes and no. I mean, there's a way of working it out. I mean, you have to, it's a negotiable thing. You have to talk to every place. I mean, I'm just through that as a golf club. Maybe they'll say, okay, if you become a member, you've just got to work out a way of doing it. But that's the route, going towards high net worth individuals, which is fairly easy.
So that's something for me in the future, actually, not now.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to be thinking in this area, Liga, because there's, you know, the ideal thing. What Phil suggested is absolutely valid, but the ideal thing is that you, well, in financial services, it would be called a whale. You find yourself a whale, which is one massive client that spends some money with you, and then you delight them with the service that you've offered, and all of a sudden they will open their black book for you, and make personal introductions for you to all their other friends that also collect art. Now, you may be waiting quite a long time to get to that point where you've got that whale, so to speak. But listen, I don't know how your husband feels about you're promoting your business, but equity partners in law firms are a favorite place to go. As you know.
I know. I need to push him.
Yeah.
About a prize draw at a company Christmas party. Everybody throws in their business card with an email address on it. The fine print. No, this is how you do it. It's in fine print. You say, okay, Liga's going to give you, a case of Moet Chandon, a chance to win it. You got to throw in your business card. Bam. Click all the names and addresses like that. Everybody will do it when they're drunk.
Well, I have to hold the horses, actually. That just came to me, but I have to hold the horses because I'm still mom and I'm still housewife and all that stuff. So yesterday I came to the term. It's my business is actually it's a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate. I want to bring art to people. It's actually, I'm not there. I don't want the numbers as much as I want to serve. I want to be there. I want to meet people. I want to tell them. I want to be introducing them. So it's almost like my passion is not because I want to sell them the thing and earn those couple £1,000. I really want to get to know people, and I want to be into their bubble and talk to them and explain and take them to tours and introduce them to the artists. It's just, I got a little bit crazy.
That's the way to start. The way to start is to give. The way to start is to give, and then you get.
Yeah.
Right? So you give all your passion, you give all your knowledge, you give people advice on how to do it, and then they say, oh, wow, Liga knows about this. I know Liga. And then they'll contact you, and they'll subscribe to you on Instagram and stuff like that. And then you pick up their email addresses like that, and then you can start mailing them and pestering the hell out of them and getting advice.
Yeah, I'm going to start slowly. I'm going to launch my website in June, and then have the scorecards like for people. I don't know, I need to decide, and then hopefully get some leads from there. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. So thank you so much for this.
You're very welcome. Phil, thank you very much for
thank you
for that.
The boss. He's the boss.
Phil, I've got my email here. If you could send me some terms, like literally terms, because sometimes I sit and I go, I actually don't know what to search for because
I'll post you the ideas and copy Keith. There you go, okay, and he'll take you through the proper process. I'm interested in helping other people a bit more full time.
That's amazing. That's how I am actually, and I really promote that. If somebody asks me, I go, yes, if I can, I'll do this. I'll link it, and I just love it. I just simply love it. And
in reality, I'm Keith's coach.
All right, I have to go. And
I'm not. I'm kidding.
Sometimes you are.
Right, bye, and have a lovely rest of the week.
Thank you. You too, Liga.
There you go.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye, mate. Bye.